Brother and lads, welcome back to Cossy's Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. We are going to talk about Yves Bissouma. We're going to talk about all the reports and all the rumors around this deal, and we'll talk about why Arsenal need to sign him, and we'll do a little comparison between Yves Bissouma and Thomas Partey. Actually, if we go by statistic and numbers, Yves Bissouma is very, very close to being as good as Thomas Partey, with him being even better in some aspects of the game, especially defensively. So stick around till the end. Join me in the comment box below. Do you think Yves Bissouma is a player that Arsenal desperately need? And one question I'm going to ask, and one thing I'm going to react to first before we enter the video, is I've seen a couple of people on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook and Instagram trying to say the Arsenal should sign Yves Bissouma but not Youri Tielemans. Now, I want to make this very, very clear. Yves Bissouma has predominantly played as a central midfielder and as a defensive midfielder. Predominantly plays as a defensive midfielder, so he does not play as a central attacking midfielder. According to SofaScope, I've seen him listed. I've seen one of the positions listed as one of the positions he can play as an attacking midfielder. And for me, it is not true. If you look at his heat maps, if you look at everything we're going to look at in this video, he's not an attacking midfielder. He doesn't have any creativity in him. And that is why Youri Tielemans should join Arsenal together with Yves Bissouma, but not one of them. Actually, if it is one of them, I would rather suggest Arsenal go for Youri Tielemans and not Yves Bissouma because of my reasons that I will tell you in this video. So let me know in the comments below, do you think one of them should sign or both of them? And if it is one of them, do you think it should be Tielemans or do you think it should be Yves Bissouma? Let's get into it. Let's start off with all the reports that have been reported around this deal, and we'll start off with the one from Calcio Mercato. Calcio Mercato yesterday came out and reported that Arsenal, that Yves Bissouma is destined, and that is a strong statement. They said Bissouma is destined to play for Arsenal Football Club. A few hours later, a few moments later, a couple of reports started flowing in, around this deal, claiming that a deal was closed between Arsenal and Brighton. Now, I want to make that very, very clear that it is not true. There is no agreement between Arsenal and Brighton for Yves Bissouma. However, what we know at the moment is that Yves Bissouma has told his agents that he will not be staying at Brighton, and if Arsenal come knocking on the door, he will be very, very open and very, very glad to join the club. Arsenal do not have an agreement between them and Yves Bissouma. However, we do have contacts. We have made contact. We've talked to the player, and the players come. Brighton do not want to lose him on a free. He's not going to be extending his contract with them. His contract runs down in 2023. This summer, it will be left with 1 year. So this is the perfect time for Arsenal to come in and get this player just on a bargain. But just to make things clear, Calcio Mercato have said that the player is destined to play for Arsenal. They are claiming that a deal is very, very close to being agreed between Arsenal and Brighton, which for me, from authentic and more strong sources close to the player and close to the club, are denying that information. And also, Yves Bissouma has not agreed personal terms with Arsenal, but what I can say is that he's told his agents to structure a deal that can bring him to Arsenal Football Club. He's a boyhood club of, he's a boyhood fan of the club. Of course, that much we know. So let's look at Yves Bissouma and what he would bring at Arsenal, and also because for me, in my opinion, Bissouma comes in as a direct cover for Thomas Partey, a player who can give us what Partey gives us, especially now the Partey is a very, very injury-prone man. Now, if you look at this, if you look at that heat map, it is Bissouma's heat map from SofaScore, and just below here, I would love to show you this. I hope you'll be able to see that. Just below here, you can see, I'll move myself out of the way. You can see on that pitch, on that little pitch down there, the positions he has played in this campaign for Brighton. He's played as a defensive midfielder. He's played in that central midfield role, and also at times played in the attacking midfield. That is according to SofaScore. Those are the three places. Those are the three positions he's played in this campaign. And down below here, you can look at his strengths, which is ball control, positioning, and tackling. Those are the three strengths that are being pointed out by SofaScore. So on to the right hand side is his heat map, and that is exactly what you get in Thomas Partey. That kind of a player who is all over the place, that kind of player who who just picks up the ball in deeper areas and progresses it into high areas on the pitch. Now that is Yves Bissouma's heat map. Let me show you Thomas Partey's heat map at Arsenal this season, and this is how it looks like. Thomas Partey also this season has predominantly, if I can move myself out of the way, he's predominantly played as a defensive midfielder and also as a central midfielder for Arsenal this season. His strength as well is ball control. But look at the heat map. If we compare the two heat maps between Thomas Partey and Yves Bissouma, very, very similar. If you look at the red for Thomas Partey, where it is, literally, the areas where Partey's game concentrates more are the areas here, if you can see, where Yves Bissouma's game really, really concentrates. You can't argue though that Thomas Partey's game is a little bit more tilted to the right, while Yves Bissouma's game is a little bit more tilted to the left. But they all of them give you the same thing. They're two players that really love being on the ball, two players that are going to be your anchorman, two players that are always going to be holding the ball and making sure that you have total control of the midfield, tackling, winning it back. We are going to look at all the statistics, and you'll see the similarity between these two lads and why I think one is a very, very good backup to the other. So if we look at the statistics, especially in terms of passing statistics, what they are good at, we look at Yves Bissouma. Assists to this campaign, touches per 90, 61 touches per 90. Big chances created, he created 2 big chances per 90. Key passes 0.3. Key passes are passes into the final third. Passing accuracy per game standing at 89%. Passing accuracy in his own half 93%. Passing accuracy in his in the opposition half 85%. Accuracy on the long balls 61%. Accuracy on chipped passes 48%. So his passing accuracy generally, you would say, is a little bit, for me, for a player who plays in that pivot, needs to improve, but it is okay. In his own half, he's averaging 93% passing accuracy, and in the opposition half, he's averaging 85% passing accuracy. If you look at Thomas Partey's passing accuracy this season and passing starts, 86% per 90, 91% in his own half, actually slightly lower than Yves Bissouma, because Bissouma stands at 93. 81% in his in the opposition half, a little bit lower than Yves Bissouma, because Bissouma is standing at 85%. So you can see, in terms of passing accuracy, Yves Bissouma is the better player. If we look at the defensive stats, how they've been defending football this season, interceptions per 90, Bissouma is standing at 1.9. Tackles per 90, 2.9 tackles averaged per game. Possession won, you have 0.3. 0.3 times per 90. He's being dribbled past only 0.6 times. That is not even one. Clearances per 90 is standing at 1.8. So you can see that the defensive part of the game for Yves Bissouma is absolutely late. For Thomas Partey, if you're trying to compare him, interceptions per 90, Partey is averaging 1 interception per 90. Bear in mind that Bissouma is averaging 1.9. Tackles per game, 1.8. You think he's better than Partey is better there. Possession won, 0.7 is better there. Dribbled past 1.1 times per 90. That means Bissouma is far better, a firm and solid player, because Bissouma is being dribbled past only 0.6 times per 90. Clearances per game, 1.4 for 1.4 for Thomas Partey. You can't see here for you can look at here for Bissouma, it is 1.8. So defensively, you can also argue that Yves Bissouma is slightly a better player, especially in the Premier League, than Thomas Partey. But I think where Partey beats Bissouma and where you would take Thomas Partey overall is the overall game and the other attributes both of them offer. Partey is a better dribbler. Partey is better at finding those passes that can unlock a defense. Partey is better at finding those passes that can ultimately lead to a goal than Yves Bissouma. Both of their heat maps suggest that they're players that really play not very, very far away from the 18 yards box, but they make very, very little entries into the penalty area. So I do not want anyone to say that Partey is better than Bissouma, because Partey affects the game, affects the final or the offensive part of the game better. Both of them do not make those penalty entries, but they affect the game by providing cover to the likes of Odegaard and the likes of Emile Smith-Rowe and the likes of Madison and not Madison, the likes of Leandro Trossard at Brighton for Bissouma's case, and the likes of Enoch Mwepu. But one thing if we look at Bissouma's statistics on FBref, one thing you'll notice here is the strongest part of his game is the defensive part. The strongest attributes of Bissouma's game are the defensive attributes. And the role you want him to play in, the role that Arsenal want to employ him in, just a moment. There we are. So these are his statistics per 90, and these are his statistics per percentage from where he does best to where he's actually performing very, very poorly. So if we look at the strongest attributes of his game, which are in green, you can look at you can see these green bars. That is where he's actually performing very, very well. Pass completion, 89.7%. That is in the 91% percentile. Of course, if you think about the 91% percentile, I think Thomas Partey is below that. He's not actually averaging. Thomas Partey, we've looked at it on SofaScore. Thomas Partey is averaging 86% ball accuracy. So you can see Thomas Partey actually does not qualify to be to be in the same category in terms of pass completion as Yves Bissouma. Clearances per 90, he's standing at 2.17, and also standing in the 90 percentile. Dribbles completed, and these percentiles are calculated in comparison to players in the whole of Europe. So dribbles completed 1.3. He's doing very, very well there. And look at this, tackles per 90, 3.11. He's averaging 3.11 tackles per 90. You need that with players like Martin Odegaard, with players like Emile Smith-Rowe, Martinelli, Saka. You have a lot of defensive liability. Although Arsenal is a group of hardworking players, but they are a little bit they're a little bit of a liability defensively. So you need a player who can make the tackles, and you need a player who can make the tackles successfully. So he's having 3.11 tackles per 90. Interceptions 2.34 as well. Absolutely brilliant if you compare him to other players in Europe. Blocks per 90. Number of times the ball. Number of times blocking the ball by standing in the path. So he's doing that 1.83 times. Progressive carries carries that move the ball towards the opponent's goal at least 5 yards, or any carry into the penalty area, excludes carries from the defending 40% of the page. And you can see for progressive carries, the number of times he's carrying the ball into the final third, into the penalty area, or at least 5 yards close to the enemy lines. And look at these lads. We've looked at this, right? We've talked about this. Look at his heat map yet, again, and look at this yellow and red. This is what we're talking about. That yellow and that red around there represents the progressive ball carries. We're talking about the amount of times he's carries the ball and brings it at least 5 yards close to the opponent's goal. I think Thomas Partey is also doing that very, very well. There's no need for comparison. Blocks per 90, we've talked about that. Assists per 90, very, very low. Passes attempted, 50.44. I think he can improve on that, especially if he's going to play in that Arsenal system where he's going to be much of a single pivot. He can actually improve on that. One area that I think he needs to improve on is his pressures per 90, 17.69. A little bit low for a player playing in that position. He needs to upgrade on that. But he's only 24 years of age. There is a lot for him to learn and add to his game. So that is Yves Bissouma. Strength, weaknesses, and player comparison to Thomas Partey. If Arsenal can get this deal done, there's a lot of advantages. One, you have a permanent cover for Thomas Partey whenever he gets injured. But also, two, you have a player who can replace Thomas Partey when Partey leaves, probably in 2 or 3 years. I think Yves Bissouma will be looking to take full control of that position. And if he doesn't do that as early as possible, soon or later, that will be his position at Arsenal Football Club. Of course, I don't think it's a deal that's going to be very, very hard for Arsenal to do if they decide to do it. A player who is not even thinking about playing in Europe. We are offering him UEFA Europa League football. And also, I think Brighton, we've done business with them. It can actually, we can replicate the same. I think the same. We can feed off the rapport. We can feed off the good relationship we have with them. So I think, lads, there is nothing to talk about Bissouma to Arsenal more than that. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. Speak to you soon.